welcome back to my channel. As you can see, I have a special guest here. I'm pretty sure everybody that follows me follows you because they all know Linda G as well. So I may not be introducing them to anybody new, but I am very, very proud to have him on my channel. He's got a wonderful website. He does a whole bunch of stuff in our metaphysical. He's teaching. He does this. He's got a list of stuff. I'm sure he would love to be able to let us know because I want to know. And then after that, we're gonna get him some challenging questions. So stay tuned for that. So Mel, I'm gonna turn it over to you. How do they get a hold of you? Who or what you are? Do you do readings? All that stuff. All the stuff.
I don't know who I am today. No, I'm teasing. Hi. Number one, thank you for having me on your show. You've been on my show, and everybody loved it, and so I'm so honored to be on your show. Um, I do readings 5 days a week. Um, I teach. There's the next thing coming with teaching is in Benicia, California in November. Linda Grindle and I are hosting it. To find out the information about it, go to the website www.lindagrindle, grindel.com, lindagrindle.com/events, and go to Benicia, Benecia, I think, Benicia, however you spell it, in California. And there's going to be me, Linda, and a surprise for everybody. And I'm excited because Joy Harjo is coming in. Joy is a Native American, and she's been to the White House. She's a poet laureate. I mean, her work is just genius and beautiful. And she's a nice lady. So she's very well known. And don't get to meet Joy. Anyway, so I'm excited about it. Then I've got my trip going to Peru, September the 16th. I might have an opening on that one. Iceland, I do have an opening for one, possibly two. That's departing October the 1st. But if anybody wants to go, they need to let me know immediately uh, because we're past final payment. Final payment means that the people that are going have to pay within 3 months of departure. But after final payment, the airfare changes and all that stuff, so it gets a little more complicated. Uh, so anyway, next year I'm thinking about doing a cruise on the Danube, starting in Prague,
Mm.
coming down into Germany, going across Austria, stopping in Bratislava, Slovakia, and ending in Budapest, Hungary, and then a trip to the Galapagos Islands. So,
Uh,
so that's next year. One year I want to do a cruise on the Mekong River in Vietnam. It's supposed to be incredible. But
mhm.
anyway, so that's the thought process for next year. I got to get going on. Let's see what else coming. Going to Hawaii in August, the early part of August, and I have an opportunity to perhaps go to Ecuador. Um, you know, the 21st of August through the 25th or 26th. So anyway, there's
Yeah.
a lot.
Well, it
When I
looks like
was
you're
sick,
busy.
I couldn't go into my trips. I was going to go to Slovakia and teach. I was going to teach Ho'oponopono. That's forgiveness. And I had to cancel because I was sick. And then in May, I had 20 people on a yacht on the Italian and French Riviera going to those places, and I couldn't go on the trip. My passengers went, but I couldn't go because I was recovering from surgery. But it's funny, I was just in Mount Shasta with Kim Copeland, and Kim is feeling poorly. So everybody please send her
Oh,
healing energy, or she was feeling poorly, but she's recovering. So good. But Linda Grindle said, in Mount Shasta, people were, how was Mel? And she's like, normally Mel's go, go, go. But in Mount Shasta, he was kind of, I got to relax a little.
right.
I'm on the go, go, go stage again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
I know that feeling. So what is your sun sign? What is
I'm 1 degree Aries.
your Aries? Oh, there you go.
3 planets, I think 2 or 3 planets in Scorpio, Virgo on the ascendant, Virgo riser. I'm all fire and water. I think I might have like one air sign in my chart. I don't think I have any earth signs at all. I have to ask
Ah,
Andre.
there you go. And mine's pretty much all air and fire. So,
There you go.
well, thank you so much for showing up. Thank you. When I invite, you say yes. That's always nice, to have that for sure. I have some questions set aside for you. Are you ready? We're going to
I'm
take a tiny break from political. We might talk a little political, but we're really going to go kind of hardcore. I know that Mel Doerr has a lot of experience in this metaphysical life. So I've put together a few questions. So the first up question is, do you think that some people are meant to stay asleep in a lifetime?
I think we have a choice in this lifetime or in a lifetime to either be informed or to remain uninformed. And uninformed is ignorance, not stupidity, ignorance. Um, and some people just choose to be uninformed. If you're asking me if it's predetermined before we come into the lifetime, I say no. Um, there are people who misuse um, their abilities. People ask me if I believe in a devil like this evil creature, and the answer is no. I believe that good versus evil resides in each of us.
Mm,
Um, and there are people who genetically, I think it's genetic, are born without a conscience. People like some of our politicians,
correct.
one with orange hair, whose name we shall not mention. Well, it's not orange anymore.
It's something. Looks like piss water, but whatever. We'll go on.
Thank you. Well, I agree. Um, but I think that some people who they've done some studies and they found some kind of sociopathic or psychopathic gene, but not everybody with that gene ends up being a sociopath or a psychopath. So I think environment plays a part in it. You
Mm,
know, um, some people just do not have a moral conscience, and everything for them is transactional. And they take perverse pleasure in seeing other people suffer and like chaos and confusion. People like Donald Trump. And to me, anytime we misuse our power or misuse our gifts or whatever, to me, that's evil.
I
So,
agree.
so is people like Cheetolini awake or asleep?
Yeah.
He's awake and he knows what's right and wrong. He just doesn't care.
I think he has learned, and well, not learned because he doesn't put the hard work in order. So when you're a good do this and you would go and ascend and you help people, at first it's hard work to choose differently than your peers. And he
Right.
never put the hard work in. And to go kind of go back to when you said that everybody has an opportunity or a choice, I've always been curious about that. So, like when you get here and you don't have a conscience or a soul, do they really
Not about a
have a
soul. They,
choice?
they have a soul. They just don't have a conscience. In other words, no moral compass.
Right.
I,
So do they
I,
really have a choice?
yes, because I think some things like sociopathy, like I said, there's a gene for psychopathy or psychopath
Mm,
or antisocial personality disorder, and it can be through environment. Many people know the difference between right and wrong. They just don't care. Uh, for him, he knows it's wrong,
yeah.
but mentally he knows it's wrong, but emotionally he doesn't care because it's what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine. And if I want it, I'll take it.
Yeah,
There are a lot of
somebody,
people, there are a lot of people who were brought up in abusive backgrounds like he was, and they turn out
correct.
to be okay. But you're right. He wants everybody else to do his work, his dirty work. And whether it's clean work or dirty work, he doesn't put the energy into doing it because then he can blame everybody else. And his karmic lesson is about being responsible for his own behavior. My prayer is that he'll ultimately feel that, but I know he won't.
Yeah, I think he's too far gone there, and that was a thought process as me. Sometimes you pass the point of return, and I think that I believe that with most anything, like your body, your mind, everything, you can pass the point of repair and return. I
Right.
do believe that. However, I think with Trump, he got an early. This is I think this had a lot to do with addiction, in my opinion. Okay, that he got a payoff for bad behavior, and he's been chasing that feeling for all of his life.
Bingo. For him, it's all about transactional.
Hmm.
What's in it for me?
Yep.
He doesn't care if he gets bad press or good press. He just wants the press. He wants to be in the spotlight.
Always.
That's how narcissistic he is. It's always what is the payoff for me? Like bullying other countries into the tariffs. He doesn't care about what it does to the American people. He
Mm.
doesn't get one flying, you know what? The only thing he cares about is what is the payoff for him, and the payoff for him is about having power and control to get them to bend to his will, to do his bidding.
Because the payoff is I look like a bad butt, right? I look like a bad mamma jamma. I look strong. I look great. I look big. I look one. That's his payoff for that ego, because we also know that ego factors in. And I
Bingo.
think that he has been chasing that first feeling all of his life. That
That's right.
payoff.
You're right about that.
All right, so let's go ahead and continue on. Our next question is, what's your take on love and light crowd? Is toxic positivity a real issue in spiritual circles? Can we get a little out of sorts with a little bit of that? Sometimes I go into a spiritual realm or a whole bunch of people who are spiritual, and all of a sudden I feel very toxic. I'm like, what is going on with this? We're supposed to be with the most wonderful people, but yet I feel not right. So, can you explain that to me? Maybe I'm just off kilter.
Well, just because we claim to be spiritually enlightened doesn't make us any more or less wonderful or any better or any worse than anybody else. You know, I didn't quite know what you meant by toxic positivity, but I do know. Um, for when I had cancer, um, I was scared. Nobody knew, but I was scared. I was petrified,
Mm,
petrified.
that.
And I said to Spirit, help me, or God, or whatever you want to call, the omnipotent. And I said, help me with this. And nothing came back. And when I got to the depths of my fear, it came back. And I tell this to everybody, it was like, don't let the fear stand in front of you and hold you back. Let it get behind you and push you forward. And they got me through it. But there were people who said to me, well, what are you afraid of? You chose this. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Chose this. I'm like, what do you mean? Oh, you contracted for it became before you came into this life. I'm going like, why would anybody choose to have cancer?
Right.
Why would anybody choose to be rounded up and deported to a concentration camp in another country or in the middle of a swamp somewhere only because of their birthright, where they came from? They've committed no crime, they've done nothing. Why would anybody contract to be murdered in a concentration camp? Why would anybody contract to starve to death or to be shot because you're trying to get food? I have a problem with that. It's like blaming the victim.
Correct.
How about let's take collective responsibility and say, wait a minute, genocide, killing is wrong, and accepting everybody, and then we wouldn't be having these mass scale deportations, because here again, Chitolini is playing to the bigotry and the hatred in people and giving them a wink and a nod and telling them it's okay when it is not. So I do have a problem with saying, oh, they contracted for that. That doesn't make it okay. It makes it even worse, in my opinion.
Right. And unironically, now that you bring that up, that is a little bit of the toxicity. It's like blaming you for your cancer. And Yeah, I'm against that as well. And it's almost like, blaming a child for being abused. Well, you incarnated and you chose to be the
Right,
abused child.
right.
And I remember going, how can that be? I am in an environment. I chose to come down here. However, I did not choose to be that tested. You know what I mean? I am not here for
No, I
that.
don't think it's a test. I think we're born with our genes. We're born, we are reincarnated, but I kind of think it's a tabula rasa, a
Hmm.
blank slate. The paper are the genes. The lines are the past karmas or things. What get written into it, some of it's up to us, but unfortunately, sometimes other people write on it or
Yeah.
tear our page up.
Yes.
So you cannot factor out free will. And like when I had cancer, I even had people tell me, "Oh, what are you angry about?" And I said, "What do you mean?" "Oh, well, cancer is caused from anger." And I'm like, "I'm
I
not
believed
angry."
that for a very long time until I also had the same idea. I'm like, that can't be.
I said, "I'm not angry." But I'll tell you what does piss me off is when somebody says I got cancer because I was angry.
Yeah,
When I go to the cancer clinic, I see people there with bald heads.
yeah.
I see people there that are dying. I see people there with these big lumps on their neck. I have oropharyngeal cancer. One of our followers has cancer. Her cancer is caused from HPV. It's colorectal. And, we're going through a hard enough time with cancer and trying to get the surgeries and trying to hopefully the treatment will give some quality to life. We don't need people telling us that we got it because we're angry or that we contracted for it.
Right. I used to believe that for a long time, but I also have to factor in our environment.
Yes.
This generation didn't choose all the toxicity that our last generation
Right.
did.
We have the choice to either clean up the planet
Yeah,
because climate change and the toxic stuff we're pumping into it is a threat. I mean, it's an existential threat to humanity. You know, I don't want to give up my flush toilet. Nobody does.
right?
Let's think of ways to conserve our planet. Let's think of ways to make proper choices. And it's not about, like with some politicians, a lot of people, let me get what I can get and I don't care about anybody else. That's wrong.
Truth.
So, you know, when I go to the cancer clinic, I'm going to start volunteering. Um, and maybe if I tell my story, it'll help other people with theirs. My cancer was caused from human papillomavirus, um, not HIV, HPV. And the doctors tell me that people over 40, these types of cancers are epidemic because in our day, we could not get the vaccine they have now to prevent human papillomavirus. And please, everybody, don't start writing in about anti-vaxxers. I don't want to hear all that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're
It's a
not
good way to get
interested.
right. No,
Yeah,
it's a good way to get blocked from my channel because
exactly.
um, I believe in vaccines, whether or not you wish to take one as your choice, but don't criticize me for my choice.
Correct. Yeah.
We have choice. But, and my doctor, I was just talking to her and thank goodness I just had, my scope and a couple CAT scans, which I have to have every year now for this, and the scope every 6 months, and I was all clear. And I'm thankful for that.
Right.
A lot of people aren't that lucky.
Yeah.
They're dying of cancer. And if you sit and talk to people who have the disease, they don't become the disease.
Mhm.
But what it taught me, and I think what it's taught many of them, is to relish every single second
Correct.
because it
We
continues.
do get a scenting and higher level as I've never had cancer. I'm not speaking for a cancer patient, but what I see is people getting higher level energy lessons. Like you guys, they kind of ascend to a higher acceptance and appreciation, and it's like a blind person has acute hearing kind of a thing, I think.
We can all talk about death and dying, and we know it's going to happen to all of us.
Yes.
But when you have something like cancer, what I just went through, I mean, I almost died. I really did. I was never so sick in my entire life. At that juncture, when I was going through it, I was so sick in each particular moment. I just wanted the moment of suffering to end.
Right. Right.
And so I wasn't I mean, I was fighting to live, but if the suffering like that had continued, I didn't want to live
Right.
because it was so, so painful and so horrible, you know? But it taught me to cherish every moment,
Mm-hmm.
every moment.
The
So,
fragileness of our existence is true.
right. I never want to disempower somebody by when I have clients who come in that have cancer, I would never disempower them to say you chose this, or you contracted for it, or you have it because you're angry. My cancer was caused from human papillomavirus. And where I was going with that is, well, now there were people who I've read that say, oh, when HIV or AIDS first came out, or even this, well, those gay people deserve that.
Yeah,
Really?
I remember the beginning of all of that, and it just horrified me
Well, even now.
from the get-go.
But what they've learned with these human papillomavirus, HPV cancers, is sometimes where you get the cancer is not the point of contact. It's not where the virus first entered your body.
Right.
So, the virus doesn't care if you're gay, straight, trans, it doesn't care. It just wants a host.
Correct.
So, mine was environmental, yes. Uh, could it have been prevented? I don't know.
Right.
Because is it sexually transmitted? Yes, but it's transmitted other ways as well. So
Yes.
who knows how I got something, you know,
Years
30,
ago.
30 years ago.
Exactly.
My dentist, um, he had HPV cancer. It was a little spot on his tongue, and he had a lymph node that or a knot on his neck. And when they biopsied, it was cancer, and they couldn't find the origin. And so the doctor who operated on me, that's how one of the ways I found out about her. He went to her years ago, and she found this little tiny spot on the back of his tongue. Now he's not gay. All right. There are a lot of people who get these kind of cancers without ever having had oral sex.
Right.
And yes, we can say those things.
Hey, this,
So,
yeah,
so it's,
we're adults here.
and then what bothers me is people say, oh, it's a punishment. It's the wrath of God because you're gay.
I
The
did,
God,
yeah, that is never the answer on, especially on my channel and your channel too.
the
That is
God that I
never
know, the
the
God
answer.
that I know is a very loving God.
Yeah.
And for those people who believe in creation, I happen to believe in evolution, but God had to start it all somewhere.
Right.
I say, okay, do you believe that God created everything? Yeah. Well, God created gay people. So how could God have made a mistake?
Well, I mean, the difference between a Christian God and the Bible God is totally different than a spiritual God and what we were born into from the get-go. Number one, gay, trans, and all of that, all of the letters were here and existed from the get-go. That
The
means we
biblical
ascended all at the same time. So their BS about we have to separate is this literal BS, is my complete opinion about that.
God did not write the Bible. People say
No, of course
God
not.
did.
No, so we don't go off of
But
that.
here again, people say, well, they talk about the Old Testament, but it also says if somebody does this, you have to stone them. It
No,
also says if somebody does this, nobody. So, when Christ came, it did away with all that. And that's when the New Testament came about. But when you say, I do want to touch on this because when you say, you know, that Bible, if you really follow what the Bible says, not the Old Testament, but get past Deuteronomy, the canonical laws, it really prescribes a way to live life in a beautiful way. It's just that people take it out of context and misquote it. When they talk about gays and gay marriage, there's nothing in the scriptures about gay people
no,
being married. There's nothing about it. It's not in there.
no,
They bring up Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, Sodom and Gomorrah, you know, um, they say, oh, well, it was about, God destroyed those cities because, it was about, the men were gay. It doesn't say that. It
no.
doesn't say that at all. I think that was the sin of greed. That was the sin of whatever. you also have to look at the translations, how it was translated. So people try to quote the Bible. When I was 12, my dad was Protestant, my mother was Catholic. When I was 12 in the Protestant religion, we went to confirmation class every Friday for 3.5 hours for 2 years. And we started with the Old Testament and finished with the New. So I have read it cover to cover.
Me
My
too.
mom was Catholic. I was baptized Catholic as well, confirmed Catholic, and in the United Church of Christ, which is a very liberal Protestant church. So don't quote it to me because I know, and I
I
know
was
if it's
raised Mormon. Every morning at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., you sit on the couch and you read the Bible. You know what I mean? So I completely
I,
understand that.
I think it gets misconstrued.
I think that I can take a little bit from that book and a little bit from another book and a little bit from another book over here and a little bit from that other book and whatever I feel inside, which creates a wonderful life for me, is the way to go. That's my own personal opinion. I do not take the Bible as literal because I just don't think it is.
Not literal,
And
it's
I don't,
figurative.
yeah, so I mean, there's just a whole bunch of, but I kind of want to move away from a little bit of that.
Hallelujah, because if I could jump through the screen and kiss you right now, I would do it. Where I was going with the whole biblical thing is, um, you know, we're not against God because we're LGBTQ. That's a crock.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get that. I get that theory. Yeah. I understand completely. I learned that lesson. It was about like 15, maybe even 20 years ago. I was working for a company. I'm not gonna say which one, but I would pick up this gay couple that were working with me. And I would go pick them up. And as we were riding there, I learned a lot. I learned a lot by asking all the questions, right, wrong, or indifferent. I always tell them, I said, I just need to know. And he said something about he says, yeah, when my husband and I go into church. And I literally stopped for a minute. I'm like, what do you mean they let you in there? And she goes, Sheila, God does you know, she literally had to look at me and say, God doesn't reject us. It is the people who reject us. And we don't go where the people reject us. And I'm like, oh,
I don't I I don't have a problem with people being religious if that is their
yeah,
tool for
yeah, yeah.
spirituality. I'm like you, I cherry pick.
Yeah, I do too. I cherry pick all over and whatever it is, and I don't put so much weight into something being believable or being true because I'm malleable. That's my who I am. When new energy and new information comes in, I am malleable. I am movable. I am, like, oh, that makes a little bit more sense. That's a little puzzle piece that I didn't know about. But I don't sink my teeth into something and then make it. It's like I don't sink my teeth into just one thing and then make everybody think that they're doing wrong because of this one thing.
The thing I find is I'm not dogmatic. You know,
Right.
the Catholic Church can be very dogmatic. A lot of religions can be dogmatic. I'm not anti-religion.
Right.
There's no bad religion. There's some bad people that practice that religion,
Yeah.
that misuse the power. You know, I hear a lot of people that are supposedly enlightened saying that they're not dogmatic. They're more dogmatic than anybody. Well, you have to meditate 15 minutes 3 times a day.
Right.
You have to
Exactly.
go do this. You have to chant Om 3 times and then blah, 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 blah. Hello? You
Oh,
don't have to
yeah.
do any of it. Here's the way it works. It's what works for you.
Right. Or you have to read your tarot cards a certain way, or they're not gonna, or you have to hold your breath and move your mouth, or you ask the question the right way. I'm like, stop it.
When they say they're not dogmatic and they criticize other religions, I'm like, have you looked in the mirror lately?
Oh, I agree, I agree. All right, let's kind of move away from this a little bit
No,
and go
but
on to
I'm
some
glad
more
we
questions.
did because at least people kind of can get how we think, and
Correct.
at
I
least
agree.
I think. But you know what? Your opinion might be different than mine,
Yeah.
but it doesn't make you wrong or you bad or me bad unless you're a bigot. Now that's not.
I am not one of those.
I'm not either.
No
I,
way. No
we,
way. No way.
I believe
Now
in
I've had to
a different plan.
detox. Well, I've had to detox my brain and my emotions and my thinking from the way I was raised. I am not going to lie. I have a video on my channel that talks about how I was raised. I was literally raised by some of the most racist people. Both of my biological parents were from Texas, okay? And then my mother, yeah, my mother didn't do any better after the first one, second one, third, or fourth, okay? So I was absolutely immersed into racism. And I, as a little girl, still felt, I'm like, this can't be right. This does not feel good. So as I am being slathered in these teachings, I still came out and crawled out of it with a different opinion and a different emotion about it. And I have still have to detox from that and get corrected in my thinking and my emotions and stuff. So I'm just giving you, I rejected it as a child and I have to now rewrite as an adult.
When I was a kid, growing up in Kentucky, I'll use my Southern accent for
Yeah,
this.
Kentucky. Yep.
Yeah, I grew up in the South.
Mm.
I remember signs that said whites only.
Oh,
I remember water fountains that said that. And even at that age, I thought this is so wrong.
yeah.
Um, so wrong. And I didn't understand why. And nobody could explain it.
Right.
You mean that because of the pigment in somebody's skin that they can't go in somewhere or do this or that? Uh-uh. I
Right.
never ascribed to racism or bigotry, nor will I now.
No.
Um, I think enlightenment is when we realize that we're all human, that we are no more or less than all of the life on this planet or the rock outside or that tree we want to cut down.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are all intertwined. And what happens to one happens to all of us.
Yes, yes, I've said that for a long time. The worst of us affects the best of us. Why can't we understand that?
So the toxic positivity, I like that because let's say you're in a church where, they're talking about homosexuality is a sin. This is a sin. That's a sin, blah, blah, blah. And they're doing it under the guise of being enlightened,
Oh, yeah. Mm-mm.
but it is toxic.
Yeah.
And I think you cannot suspend your critical thinking.
Right.
Because a lot of times what happens is in those situations, and that's what's going on in the country now, people have suspended their critical thinking and they're going purely on emotion. They're out to get your jobs. They're out to do this to you. They're criminals. They're out to eat your pets. They're going to do this. They're going to do that, blah, blah, blah. So what happens? Fear, and then people go on emotion and they suspend their critical thinking.
They
And that's how people like Hitler, Pol Pot, Donald Trump, that's how they come to power.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
must, as a nation, get our critical thinking back, bring our emotion to our head, and saying, this is wrong. I had somebody today who said, I said these mass deportations, and I told her about a family I knew up north. The man was here, he wasn't a citizen, but started his own business, raised a family, never had a ticket, never done anything criminal at all. And he was rounded up and they don't even know where he's at. And the havoc had played on that family.
Mm.
And so you see it firsthand. And she said to me, yeah, but he didn't have papers. I said, oh, so that makes him a criminal? I said, let's take it a step further. They are just wholesale rounding up people if they look Latino, if their last name is funny, and they're hauling them off and without any reason whatsoever ever other than the fact that they're Latino.
Well, they're just being wrong while brown. That's all. They're existing while brown, and that's the reason why. And we all have to call it out on a regular basis. And it has nothing to do with being documented or undocumented or legal or illegal is what they think it is, because it doesn't matter. They are just here and they exist and they are just existing while brown. That's all they need. That's all that they need.
Well, I told this woman today, I said, wait a minute. Everybody should be afforded due process. You can't just lock somebody up,
Yes.
send them in a prison camp somewhere in Florida or over or in whatever, El Salvador or wherever they're doing it, and let them stay there. Even people who are convicted of a crime get out of prison sooner or later.
Agreed.
Well, I think that all the criminals should leave. I said, look, if they've committed a crime of violence or a felony, then
Yep.
but what about after they've served their time in jail and they've straightened their lives out? Then you're going to deport them? Or just because they're here and you decide you don't like them? And that's what's going on.
Yeah.
That's what happened in Nazi Germany.
Yeah. And
And we must speak up because because who's next?
well, yeah, I mean that's the fear that we place in everyone. Who's next? Well, of course he's gonna, as long as he gets his base comfortable with that, he's gonna go on to the next one. He's gonna get them comfortable with that, and then he's gonna go on to the next, and he's gonna get comfortable with that until the only thing he has left is them, and then it's too late. It's too late. It's
There was
just
a
gonna be
thing
too
I
late for
heard, I, I'm probably misquoting it, but the saying goes, I didn't say anything when they rounded up everybody that was Jewish because I wasn't Jewish.
that.
I didn't say anything when they rounded everybody who was Latino because I'm not Latino.
Yep.
I didn't say anything about when they did this to everybody that was black because I'm not black.
Right.
And blah, blah, blah. And then they came after me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think everybody here that's subscribing and or watching is completely on our side on that. Completely watching. I don't know why I said washing.
And here
What?
again, that toxic positivity. They're taking your jobs. They're doing this. They're doing that. Blah blah. And a lot of ministers are saying that same thing I just said. But many ministers are starting to speak up and say no. These mass deportations without due process, deporting people who have done nothing.
They want them to get used to no process. You see, it's all about getting used to wearing down the people's caring. That's all it is. It's like rubbing against it, rubbing against it, and rubbing against it. So it's, we can speak it all they want. Now they're not going to listen to us. They have stopped listening to the Democrats and this, that, and the other a long time ago. And I don't
Well,
know, what do you think is going to literally change
well,
um,
my point is
their
some,
spirituality on
some
this?
of these ministers
Yeah,
are standing up and saying these mass deportations are wrong. The
I
Pope is
hope
saying
that
that.
changes the thing.
They're standing up. A lot of ministers are. A lot of police officers are standing with protesters so that they can't do the deportations.
Right.
Um, and I think, it starts with like the end of McCarthyism. It take a couple brave people to, I didn't do that. I don't know why that did that. It takes a couple brave
That
people
was
to,
cool. Do it again.
I don't know how to do it.
I don't know how to
It,
do it
it
either.
took a, it took a couple of brave people to start speaking up, and then other people did, and other people did.
Yes,
And so, that's what we need to do. Ministers are talking out against the
I hope
tyranny,
so.
talking out, a lot of them are.
I
But
I
here
I, I
again,
believe you. I've seen a few. I mean, I believe you.
there's more coming,
Yeah.
you know.
Ugh.
Uh, so, it starts, this problem that we're having in this country with what's going on just didn't start yesterday.
No.
It's been going on a long time. And I mistakenly thought that we had really, really progressed.
Yeah.
But I think that 60 or 65% of us have. But when I see the other percentage that support this American apartheid and this white supremacist government, I cringe. And many of us,
I didn't realize how dangerous they were. You see, they existed, my parents existed, and my relatives existed, and I knew all of that as a child. But what I didn't know is how dangerous their belief system is. Now I know how dangerous it is and how much it can literally influence even those that are not, racist. They influenced even the lack of racism inside. White people, there's a whole thing about that. But you know what I'm saying is, even the
people,
ones I thought my friends that I would never have thought that we're like this, are like this. I'm like, what happened? Why did this make sense to you?
People wondered how Hitler came to power in Nazi Germany and how that evolved. And in the
Slowly.
beginning, when he was talking anti-Semitism, many Germans were against it. So he backed off, but by degree.
Yep.
It's almost like you've heard the story about putting the frog in the cold water and you turn and you keep turning the heat up slowly. And that's exactly what happened in Nazi Germany, and that's exactly what's happening here.
Yep.
But many of us are saying, wait a minute,
Yep.
we're not going to let this happen incrementally. We're
Yep.
speaking up and we're standing up. And I think that is what will stop this madness.
I, I believe you. I 100% believe you because we do have critical mass. And here was another thing that I want to think about. You know, when the Epstein files all came out and all of the MAGAs were even mad, they joined us in our energy for a little bit. That means they were changed. No matter what it is, they were changed because that critical mass, they joined us in the hypocrisy. They joined us in what we saw. And that change that will absolutely, I believe that with 100%, that energy has now changed them. It has touched them.
Well, they wanted the files to come out because they were thinking that there were some high power names of
Oh,
Democrats.
absolutely.
And but there are, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of high powered Republican names and people from all for people, that are wealthy, people from all walks, names are on that list.
of course.
And, for them, they were going to use it as a political bombshell. But, everybody knows that it's a cover up and everybody is sick of the lying.
Hmm.
And so
They joined us. You see what I'm
they
saying? They
tried,
joined us in our energy for a little bit. And that was critical for our critical mass changing in beliefs. When critical mass hits, people don't even know why they're changing or their beliefs are changing. It's just changing. They don't know why. And that is one thing in science that has been absolute one of my cornerstones on what is happening in this country. And I was so thrilled to see them join us, even if it was for a day. They joined us and it made it more powerful and it changed them. I
bingo.
know that it did.
Some of them, not all,
Well, not all of them joined us.
but at least, but that's the way it works. A
Yes.
few will break away from it, then a few
Yes.
more. There's always going to be a little core group. Like when Hitler was out of power and defeated, there was still a little core group of Nazis. They exist today.
Yep.
But the biggest part came the other way.
Yep.
And that's how I see it.
That's how.
The cockroaches will go hide again
Yeah.
until the next opportunity. Our job is to make sure that the cockroaches cannot come out of the woodwork.
That they never have another opportunity.
That's right. That's correct.
So I agree with that. All right.
I love these questions.
They are, I thank you. I try to always get down deep into some real good conversations. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I am.
I love this.
Um,
I think YouTube needs this.
Yes, they do. They need this conversation. They need this out in the open. I'm going to ask you because of time. I think we're an hour in now. I think I want to ask you at least one more question and see where it takes us. Um, and this one is kind of like I don't know how to put it. Okay, so it has a lot to do with our political atmosphere here in the United States. And we have a lot of positive energy that we have in our base and all of our subscribers. And we have, some have over 100,000 subscribers, some have this, that, and the other, and we have this base. So, how do I put this?
Let's say it.
When you listen to other, maybe not other, because I don't want you to talk about anybody else's platforms, because that's none of our business. But when you to direct our energy, what is the most important aspect of directing people's energy? We have a responsibility because we're on YouTube. They listen to us, they see us, no matter what, we influence whether we believe it or not. What is the most important influence or direction you would ever want all of us to continue on in this political atmosphere in the United States? What is the most important thing that we have?
To be sincere, to be honest, um, to speak up against injustice, intolerance, racism, bigotry, uh, to be honest with our predictions. We miss sometimes, of course we do. Um, I have people ask me, well, so and so said that, or so and so said this. And, you know, can you read on what they say? I won't read on what somebody else says. I know what I get, and that's all I can share.
Right.
I think that, we have to be careful so that, ego means self. So we have to be careful so that our egos don't get inflated and that we think that we're all that in a piece of toast. I think that we have to stay humble. And I think that we have to keep in mind that we're doing this for one reason, and that is to help others. Now,
Correct.
people say if, um, in my opinion, MAGA is wrong. Bigotry is wrong. Prejudice is wrong. All this. And I've had people say, well, that's judgmental. No, it isn't. There's a difference between being judgmental and having a reality call. And you know what? Sometimes being judgmental is not a bad thing, provided that you're not looking down on somebody else because you think you're so high and mighty. It's wrong to rob a bank. It's wrong to hurt somebody else. You know, um, is that judgmental? Yeah. But so I think we do our work, even though people are afraid, to help them step out of the fear or let that fear get behind them and push them forward. I don't know if I'm answering your question or not.
You are. And I kind of want to circle back around to the judgment part. I had a profound experience one day when I was talking about judgmental because when you come from judgmental parents, you don't escape the mental judgment of others until you figure out
We
what's
never
going.
do, but we never do.
But wait,
But
wait, wait, hang on just a second. So what somebody literally told me, she goes, Sheila, judgment is an incredible, wonderful tool for you. I have to judge every situation. I have to judge the conversation. I have to judge what comes my way, and then I have to judge my own behavior and what I need to do and how it's going to fit with me. That is the boundaries of your judgment. And I thought that makes big sense, right? That is everything. I need to judge whether I feel comfortable in a situation or not. My judgment is I gotta go. And if when I say I gotta go because of me, I don't say I gotta go because of you. I gotta go because of me. I don't know what's going on. I am uncomfortable. Let me go over here and find out. But it has nothing to do with you because you are perfect in your own right. And when they literally took it down to a bubble of me, where my judgment is incredibly important for my life, not yours, it changed everything for me.
right.
Everything.
That's really beautifully put, and I totally agree with that. It's funny. I was downtown once, and there was this lady in front of like I don't know, it was like a convenience store or something like that. And in Chicago, homeless people sell these newspapers. Um, and a lot of people, and I was like everybody else, that and I looked, and there was this woman there, and I was with my cousin, and my cousin's talking to her. My cousin goes in, buys her coffee, comes out. She's hugging my cousin. The woman's in a wheelchair. And um, judgment hit,
Mm.
like the poor lady, but judgment hit. And when my cousin pulled me aside and she said, this woman, her husband died. She's diabetic. She had lost her legs. And she sell those papers because the way it works is they give them the papers to sell. They sell the papers and they keep half the money and they're working. So, the thing is, well, they're homeless. Why can't they get a job? All of that. That kind of went through my head for a nanosecond. And then what hit me was this woman could be Our Lady. She could be the Blessed Mother.
Right?
She could be a guardian angel. And oh my God. And I cried and I said to the woman, when I saw you, I was in judgment and I'm so sorry. My judgment shifted
Exactly.
and I
It's a
hugged her.
compassion.
Yes.
kindness.
Yes. Yes.
You became a better judge of your own character in that moment.
Right. And I felt ashamed of myself. And I told her that and I apologized. That's the whole idea of ho'oponopono. People, I do it the Hawaiian way. Some people say, well, you say, I'm sorry, I forgive you, I love you. That was some white person who put their stuff.
Right, agree.
Now, everybody out there is going to be writing me about ho'oponopono. That's not how it works. It's about letting it out. Here's how I felt. Here's what I did. I feel so bad about that.
Yep.
And that kind of kicked me in the butt. We were at this Christkindl market. It's a German market, the Christ Child market. Every year, the German community does it at the Daily Plaza in Chicago, and they do it all over Germany, and you can get like the Glühwein and the nice Stollen and all the German food and everything. And they had music, and it was really cool. We were there just jamming, and there was this lady, and she was in a wheelchair, and um, I mean, you could tell she had not had a bath in a long time. So I'm going like this, and she starts jamming. We're jamming together, and
Right.
I'm hugging her. And somebody said, "Oh, you shouldn't do that." I go, "Why?"
Yeah.
And I hugged her more.
Yep. Why? Yeah, that's the perfect answer to anything. Like, why?
Right.
Why would I not treat another human being with dignity and respect regardless?
And it's all about dignity and respect. So that's
Always.
to your question.
Yep. Yep. And it's not like we do it perfectly. Like I said, we learn our
Oh,
own little lessons within ourselves and being honest and open and confronting them. I am a person that says, Sheila, you're going to heal, but you have to go through 3,000, trials and this, that, and the other in order to get there. And I'm like, let's go. Let's get it done and over with.
I didn't see it as a test. I didn't see it as anything like that. I'm just like, wait a minute. This could be a guardian angel. This could be
Yes, it's
Our
true.
Lady. And what would I, maybe it is,
Yep.
but how would, if Jesus came today, he wouldn't be white.
Yep.
Jesus wasn't. He had dark skin, dark eyes. He was Middle Eastern. How would we treat him?
Well,
The same
we
way
know
you,
how they would.
well, right. So when you talk about, your upbringing and stepping out of judgment, but just kind of rewiring it,
Yeah.
yeah, my upbringing as well. So are we products of that? No, because
Use.
because we can reprogram it.
Yep.
And everybody can reprogram. So I have people in here, well, I do this because as a kid, and I'm like, but you can reprogram that.
Yeah.
You're still going to revert back to it, but the idea is to step out of it,
Yeah.
just like you did, just like I did.
Well, I challenge it. I challenge it on a regular basis.
That's part of it. That's
Yep.
part of it.
I
Well,
face it,
that's what we
challenge
have to
it.
do. We have to challenge injustice and hatred and bigotry. We
Yep.
have to
Yes. Yes. And I don't
always,
allow it.
because it's not going to go away.
Always. I
And
have
that's what
lost
we've learned.
long-term friendships because I said, I will not tolerate this anymore.
Okay, so my question to you is, were they really your friends anyway?
I don't know.
They weren't.
Apparently not, because when it all came out and down to it and all of that, my one of my friends literally says she said prejudiced things like, Kamala Harris got her job on her back. I'm like, that's really prejudice.
I would have said, "Oh, honey, how'd you get yours?"
Yeah, exactly. So I literally just stopped him. I said, "That's incredibly prejudiced." Well, Sheila, you know me. I'm not prejudiced. I'm like, then why
Just,
did you say that? Right?
and
And so it all came to a great big old huge halt for me. These are not the people I thought I was friends with. How did that happen? You know what I mean?
it's a
How did I
classic,
not
it's,
know?
it's a classic line for, I'm not prejudiced. Oh, I don't have anything against. I have best friends. Or I
Yeah,
don't have anything against gay people. My best friend is my
trophies.
hairdresser who's gay. Do you know how that just grates on me?
I bet.
Why would you even say it anyway? If you weren't prejudiced, it wouldn't friggin' matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a gay friend, I have a friend. I don't have a black friend, I have a friend. And
Bingo.
that's the difference between when you introduce and you start bragging on your trophies that you accumulated in your life. There's a difference on how you perceive them. I mean, where I'm not going colorless. I know that I have a black friend, but I am not going to say, "Here's my black friend." You know what I mean? That's not how you do it.
Oh, right.
But yeah, I thank you so much for this conversation. I hope whoever has made it this far has gotten a lot out of it. I appreciate your spirituality. I appreciate your heart. I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate your willingness to just speak of any conversation that is provided for. And I am really grateful for you. And I would love for our collaborations to continue on. I
We got
think
to
we
do
can.
this at least once every other week. We got to
Ex
do it because I think it's
I'm
important.
in. I'm in.
No,
Because we can just really like
nail it.
catapult us all out into where we're supposed to be, I think.
Aiden sent me a list of questions that he said you were going to ask, and he said if you find any of them offensive or whatever, you don't have to, just you don't have to answer them. I'll just say so. And I texted him back, I love them.
Oh, there you go. Well,
I
you're
don't
more than welcome to use the ones we didn't use,
No, I'm going to save those because um, I'm going to say these are Sheila's questions,
but you're more than welcome to use them anyway.
and they were really good questions, profound questions, and I think there's a lot of them, and maybe we could do a whole series on those questions. And I think that they are necessary questions that we need to look at and talk about.
Correct.
My opinion might be different from yours, but it doesn't mean that I have to dislike you as a person because our opinions are different.
No, and us facing the hard conversations is the way we really, really get to.
The way we grow,
Yes, and get there. I always like it's like we're gonna get there. I don't know where there is, but I'm definitely heading that way.
wherever it is, we're going.
We're going. I don't know what it looks like, but I'm going.
Hey, part of the fun of getting there is the journey.
Yeah, I've already threw my suitcase away because whatever I had in there wasn't working, so I need a new.
I like that. I always say I like to have this much baggage, carry on, not the whole
Yes.
cargo bay.
Yes. Like, throw it away. I'll get what I need when I get there.
That's how I am. I'm going to Hawaii and I'm like taking this little carry on and so is we are. And like I tell my niece one of her packs, she will. And I said, I couldn't find my swimming trunks. I said, I'll buy a pair when I get there. It's okay.
Hey, you and I traveled together perfectly then because I took a little itty bitty suitcase to Sicily for 3 weeks. And I'm like, I am not going to lose my luggage for one. It's coming with me on the plane for two. And whatever, I left things there, I gained things, I just switched it all out and just, you know what I
But
mean?
a traveler's tip, if you're bringing a carry-on and you're going to check your baggage, always make sure you have a change of clothes in your carry-on,
Yeah.
extra pair of underwear, your medication always put in your carry-on, a little, travel kit with your toothbrush, deodorant, and all that stuff, the tiny things, you know, um, your charger,
Yeah.
uh,
All your
your,
electronics
your
need to go with you.
passport.
Yeah.
Um, but if you're just doing a carry-on, then you're going to put that stuff in there anyway. Um, but what I do is I get these safari pants and you roll them up and they make shorts and they wrinkle, but when you put them on, they unwrinkle real quick.
Yeah.
And I get them well, I can't mention the name of the store, but it's a camping store. And I have a jacket like that and you can roll it up really tight. And so that's how I pack. I've learned over the years that less is more.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I hiked the Continental Divide, and let me tell you, when you're carrying all your crap on your back, you get to learning what's weight and what, like 2 pounds. I'm like, I can't do 2 pounds.
Ooh, I've got a little backpack, and actually you can put ice in there for like a water bottle,
Yeah,
sunglasses,
yeah.
suntan uh, off or whatever you're going to use to keep mosquitoes away, change of clothes, your toothbrush, that's kind of stuff.
Yep, yep, absolutely.
All the
All
essentials.
right. Let's leave it there. Thank you so much, Mel. Yes, I will continue on these conversations with you anytime. Any.
Thank you. We will set it up.
Yes, definitely. Your channel, my channel, or both. I don't, it doesn't matter to me.
Alternate,
There
let's
you go.
alternate.
There you go. All right, everyone. If you made it this far, thank you so much. Bye.